When you hit 70, things start to change in ways you never expected. One day you're reading the newspaper just fine. The next day, those same words start to blur like someone smeared ink across the page. It's frustrating. I remember when it first started happening to me. I was sitting in my favorite chair by the window, trying to enjoy my morning coffee and read a book I had been putting off for too long. Suddenly, the words seemed to dance on the page. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, and tried again. Same thing. The letters wouldn't stay still. It felt like my eyes were playing tricks on me. That's when I knew something was changing. At first, I ignored it. Thought maybe I was just tired or that I needed to clean my glasses better. But the truth is, when you get older, your eyes aren't what they used to be. After 70, your eyesight becomes like an old clock that's losing time. It still works, but it's slower, less precise, and sometimes unpredictable. The sharpness that once let you see every detail starts to fade. I noticed it most when I was driving. Street signs didn't seem as clear. Traffic lights seemed to blur slightly, especially at night. And oh, don't get me started on nighttime driving. The glare from other cars' headlights felt like flashlights pointed straight into my eyes. It was like my vision had turned foggy, and no matter how hard I squinted, I couldn't make things as clear as they used to be. Then there's the problem with focusing. I remember trying to thread a needle for my wife one afternoon. What used to take me a few seconds turned into a long, frustrating ordeal. The thread seemed to dance just out of reach. It wasn't just my frustration either. I started feeling anxious about things I had once done without a second thought. Reading labels at the store felt like solving a puzzle. Checking the thermostat suddenly required me to get closer and closer to the dial. But the part that really hit me was the colors. I never thought colors could lose their spark, but they do. Reds start looking more like browns. Blues lose their punch. It's subtle at first, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. My wife once pointed out that I kept picking shirts that didn't match. I didn't believe her until one day I caught myself in the mirror. She was right. What I thought was a nice blue shirt turned out to be a faded, tired color that had seen better days. One of the scariest parts was how easily my eyes got dry. It's uncomfortable, almost like having sandpaper in your eyes. No matter how much I blinked, they still felt scratchy. It made me want to keep my eyes closed more often, which just made me feel tired all the time. And speaking of tired eyes, they start feeling worn out faster than you'd expect. I could spend hours tinkering with my tools or reading my favorite book when I was younger. Now, after about 20 or 30 minutes, my eyes feel like they're begging for a break. I remember visiting my eye doctor and feeling embarrassed to admit how bad things had gotten. But you know what? The doctor wasn't surprised at all. He explained how the lens inside our eyes becomes stiffer with age. It's called presbyopia, and it's the reason why reading glasses suddenly become your best friend. The eye muscles that once adjusted effortlessly now struggle like an old rubber band that's lost its stretch. And cataracts. Oh, those sneaky things. They creep in so slowly you barely notice. It's like looking through a dirty window that gets worse day by day. But here's the thing. While all this sounds discouraging, it's not the end of the road. I remember feeling down about my eyesight until I realized there were things I could do to help myself. For starters, good lighting became my best friend. I used to think any old lamp was enough, but once I got myself a brighter, warmer light for reading, things improved a lot. Suddenly, those blurred words became clearer, and my eyes didn't feel as strained. And those dry, scratchy eyes? I found that using eye drops regularly made a huge difference. They're simple, but they work wonders. I also learned the hard way that you can't take eye checkups lightly. I used to think I only needed to visit the doctor if something felt wrong, but I found out that regular checkups can catch problems early before they get worse. My doctor adjusted my glasses prescription, and suddenly the world looked a little sharper again. One thing I'll never forget is when my grandson brought me a magnifying glass as a gift. At first, I laughed, thinking he was joking. But you know what? That little thing saved me so much frustration. Suddenly, reading tiny labels, checking my mail, and even enjoying my old photo albums felt possible again. Another trick I picked up was adjusting how I did things. Instead of reading in dim light, I started sitting closer to windows during the day. I swapped my phone settings to larger text, and suddenly messages stopped feeling like a guessing game. Small changes like these made a world of difference. But the most important thing I learned was to be kind to myself. Losing sharp vision isn't easy. It's frustrating. It makes you feel like you're losing control. But accepting those changes and finding ways to adapt made things easier. I stopped pretending I could do everything like I used to and started focusing on what I could do. And you know what? That mindset gave me peace. I won't lie, there are still tough moments. Sometimes I'll misread a sign or struggle to read the fine print on a medication bottle. But I've learned not to get too hard on myself. I've accepted that my eyesight may never be what it once was, but that doesn't mean life has to stop. It just means I have to see things a little differently, and that's okay. Now, let's clear some common questions. What treatments or solutions are available to improve eyesight for people over 70? The first thing I did was visit my doctor. I'll tell you right now, that's something you can't skip. Even if you think your vision isn't too bad yet, those regular checkups can make all the difference. I remember sitting in the chair, reading the eye chart, feeling frustrated that what used to be clear now seemed like a confusing puzzle. My doctor explained that my glasses prescription needed to be adjusted. After getting a new pair with stronger lenses, I couldn't believe the difference. Suddenly, the details came back to life. I could read street signs again without guessing. It was like someone had wiped the fog off my windshield. Getting the right glasses may seem simple, but it's often the most effective first step. For those of us dealing with cataracts, there's another solution that can make a world of difference. Cataracts creep up slowly. At first, I didn't even realize they were there. Things just seemed dimmer, and I assumed my eyes were simply wearing out. But my doctor told me that cataracts act like a cloudy film that builds up over the lens of your eye. I'll never forget the day I finally had cataract surgery. I was nervous, I won't lie. The thought of someone operating on my eye made me uneasy. But the procedure was quick, and recovery didn't take long at all. The moment I took off the bandage and opened my eye, I couldn't believe what I saw. The colors were brighter than I remembered. Blues looked rich again. Reds stood out like they should. It was as if someone had switched on a brighter bulb inside my head. That surgery gave me back so much more than just clear vision. It gave me confidence again. Of course, not all solutions involve surgery. Sometimes, small adjustments can make a big difference. I learned that improving the lighting in my home worked wonders. I replaced my old lamps with brighter ones that had warm, white light. It wasn't just about brightness either. Positioning the lights correctly made things clearer too. I started sitting closer to the window during the day when reading or writing. Natural light became my best friend. It gave me sharper vision without straining my eyes so much. Another thing I discovered was the power of magnifying tools. At first, I resisted the idea. I didn't want to admit I needed extra help just to read my mail or look at price tags in the store. But once I started using a handheld magnifying glass, I felt like I had found a secret weapon. Those little gadgets turned frustrating tasks into easy ones. Whether I was checking ingredients on a jar or enjoying an old photograph, that magnifying glass saved me from endless squinting and frustration. I also had to rethink how I care for my eyes. Dryness became a real problem for me. I'd wake up feeling like there was sand in my eyes, and no amount of blinking seemed to fix it. My doctor recommended eye drops, and at first, I thought they were just a temporary fix. But using those drops regularly made a huge difference. My eyes felt fresher, more comfortable, and less strained. It's a small thing, but it's amazing how much better your vision feels when your eyes aren't dry and irritated all the time. Nutrition also played a bigger role than I expected. I used to believe that once your eyesight started to fade, there wasn't much you could do besides glasses or surgery. But my doctor explained that certain foods could actually support my health. I started adding more leafy greens like spinach and kale to my meals. I ate more fish rich in omega-3 oils and snacked on almonds and walnuts. I even started adding colorful fruits and vegetables like carrots, bell peppers, and oranges to my plate. It didn't happen overnight, but after a while, I noticed my eyes didn't feel as tired anymore. They seemed stronger, like they had more energy to get through the day. I also learned that how you use your eyes matters just as much as what you eat or how well you light your home. For years, I would read for hours without stopping. Now, I follow something called the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, I look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. It sounds simple, but it gives your eyes a break and helps them reset. That little habit stopped my eyes from feeling so strained and tired, especially in the evening. For those struggling with more serious conditions like macular degeneration, there are treatments that can help slow things down. Some people I know have had success with injections that reduce swelling and improve vision over time. Others have used low vision devices, which are special tools designed to help you make the most of what eyesight you have left. These solutions can't always restore perfect vision, but they can help you stay independent and keep doing the things you love. One thing I can't stress enough is the importance of patience and persistence. Improving your eyesight after 70 isn't about finding one magic fix. It's about combining small changes that add up over time. I had to be willing to try different things and stick with what worked. Some solutions took weeks before I noticed a difference, but when the results came, they were worth it. How can family members or caregivers support someone struggling with declining vision? When someone you love starts to struggle with their eyesight, it can be hard to know how to help. I've seen this happen up close, and I'll tell you, it's not just about helping them see things better. It's about helping them feel safe, confident, and still capable of living a full and meaningful life. The hardest part for many people facing vision loss isn't just the blur or the difficulty reading small print. It's the frustration of losing control over things they used to do with ease. I remember watching a close friend of mine, a proud and independent man, slowly start to withdraw from the world as his vision faded. It wasn't because he didn't want help. He just didn't know how to ask for it. That's where family and caregivers can make all the difference. The first and most important thing you can do is to be patient. Vision loss doesn't just affect the eyes. It affects the mind, the mood, and even a person's sense of self. There were days when my friend felt angry and discouraged. He'd snap at me when I offered to help him read his mail or find his keys. But I learned that frustration wasn't directed at me. It was his way of fighting the fear that he was losing his independence. I found that by staying calm, giving him space when he needed it, and offering help in small, thoughtful ways, I could ease that tension without making him feel helpless. One of the most powerful ways to support someone with declining vision is to make their environment easier to navigate. I remember visiting my friend's house and noticing how much harder simple tasks had become for him. His furniture hadn't moved in years, yet he still bumped into corners and struggled to find his way through familiar spaces. We started by improving the lighting. Brighter lamps in key areas like the kitchen, living room, and bathroom made an enormous difference. Adding night lights in the hallway helped him feel safer when moving around after dark. I also encouraged him to use contrasting colors to highlight important objects. We put a dark-colored tape on the edges of his stairs so they were easier to see. We swapped out his clear drinking glasses for bold-colored ones, which made them stand out better on the table. Small changes like that gave him more confidence to move around without feeling lost or frustrated. Another important step was helping him stay organized. As his eyesight declined, he started misplacing things more often. I helped him set up a system where important items like his keys, wallet, and phone had specific spots. We labeled things clearly with large print, and I encouraged him to develop routines so he knew exactly where to find what he needed. It wasn't long before he felt more in control, and that gave him a sense of comfort. Communication also became an important piece of the puzzle. People with poor eyesight often miss visual cues, so it's important to speak clearly and describe things in detail. I learned to avoid saying things like "over there" or "next to that," and instead started using clear instructions. For example, instead of saying "your cup is by the lamp," I'd say "your cup is on the right side of the table near your hand." Simple changes like that made conversations less frustrating for both of us. Helping someone with declining vision also means encouraging them to keep doing the things they love. My friend had always enjoyed reading, but the small print had become impossible for him. I introduced him to audiobooks, and it opened up a whole new world for him. He could relax in his chair and still enjoy his favorite authors without struggling to see the words. For things like cooking, we found larger measuring tools with bold markings, which helped him feel confident in the kitchen again. Finding ways to keep someone connected to their passions can help them feel like they haven't lost part of themselves. One of the hardest things for my friend was going out in public. He worried about tripping over curbs, missing steps, or not recognizing familiar faces. I found that guiding him without making him feel helpless required some thought. Instead of grabbing his arm and pulling him along, I'd let him hold my elbow. That way, he could control the pace and feel more independent while still knowing I was there to support him. Offering gentle guidance while respecting their pride can go a long way. Emotional support is just as important as practical help. Vision loss can make people feel isolated and even embarrassed. I made sure to invite my friend out regularly, even when he seemed hesitant. Whether it was a short walk, a coffee shop visit, or just sitting outside together, those moments reminded him that life was still full of things to enjoy. The more I kept him involved, the less he felt like his declining eyesight was holding him back. Encouragement can be incredibly powerful during this time. I made a point to celebrate his successes, no matter how small they seemed. Whether it was preparing his own breakfast without help or managing to write a letter using a magnifier, I reminded him how proud I was of his efforts. That positivity gave him the strength to keep pushing forward, even when things felt hard. There's also a practical side to supporting someone with vision loss that shouldn't be overlooked. Helping them stay on top of doctor visits, eye exams, and treatment options can make a huge difference. Some conditions like cataracts, glaucoma, or macular degeneration can worsen quickly without proper care. Being there to remind them about appointments, offer transportation, or help them follow their treatment plan shows that you're not just offering sympathy, but real support. Lastly, I've learned that one of the most meaningful things you can give someone struggling with vision loss is your time. Whether you're reading their mail, describing what's happening on the television, or just sitting quietly with them, your presence matters more than you realize. Losing vision can make the world feel smaller and lonelier, but knowing that someone is there to walk beside them can bring comfort that no treatment or tool can replace. If you're helping someone with declining eyesight, remember that patience, understanding, and kindness go further than anything else. It's not about fixing everything for them. It's about giving them the courage and support to face their challenges with dignity. Seeing my friend regain his confidence and keep living fully despite his vision loss reminded me that with love and persistence, no challenge is too great to overcome. What emotional impact can vision loss have on someone in their 70s, and how can they cope with it? When you reach your 70s, life can feel like it's slowing down in many ways. But when your vision starts to fade, it's not just an inconvenience. It can shake your entire sense of self. I've experienced this personally, and I've seen many others face it too. Losing your eyesight isn't just about struggling to read a newspaper or having trouble finding your glasses. It's about losing the confidence to move through the world the way you once did. For someone in their 70s, that change can feel overwhelming. I remember when my vision started to weaken. Simple tasks that once felt effortless suddenly became frustrating. Reading labels at the store felt like deciphering a puzzle. Pouring coffee without spilling became a gamble. Even recognizing familiar faces in a crowd became uncertain. At first, I told myself it wasn't a big deal. I squinted harder, moved things closer to my face, and avoided asking for help. But deep down, I felt something worse than just the physical difficulty. I felt vulnerable. When your eyesight begins to fail, you may start to feel like you're losing your independence. I know I did. Suddenly, I found myself hesitating before stepping outside. I worried about tripping on curbs or missing steps on the stairs. I stopped driving, and with that came a sense of isolation. Losing my vision didn't just change what I could see. It made me feel like my world was getting smaller. I know many others who felt the same. Some felt embarrassed to ask for help. Others felt frustrated and angry at themselves for struggling with things they once did easily. That anger often turns inward. I remember sitting alone one afternoon, feeling foolish because I couldn't even find my shoes without stumbling around. I felt useless, and worse, I felt like a burden. That's the hardest part for many people. You feel like you're losing control. It's easy to slip into sadness or even depression when you feel like you're constantly battling your own limitations. But I can tell you from experience that there's a way through that darkness. Coping with vision loss isn't just about adjusting your surroundings. It's about adjusting your mindset. The first thing I had to accept was that asking for help didn't make me weak. I'll admit that was tough. I had spent a lifetime believing that independence was everything. But I learned that accepting help didn't mean giving up control. It meant allowing people to stand beside me, not carry me. When I stopped seeing help as a sign of weakness and started seeing it as an act of connection, I felt less alone. I found comfort in letting my family support me, even if it was just helping me find things around the house or guiding me through a crowded store. Another important step was finding new ways to stay engaged with life. When I could no longer read books the way I used to, I discovered audiobooks. Listening to stories became a joy I hadn't expected. I could close my eyes, let the words paint pictures in my mind, and still feel connected to the world of books. I also discovered simple tools that gave me back some independence. A magnifying glass helped me read mail without frustration. A talking clock let me know the time without struggling to see the numbers. Larger print labels on my medications gave me peace of mind. Each small change gave me back a piece of control, and that helped me rebuild my confidence. Connecting with other people facing the same struggles made a big difference too. I found a local support group for people with vision loss, and I can't tell you how much that helped. Being around others who understood what I was going through reminded me that I wasn't alone. We shared tips, stories, and even some laughs about the mix-ups and mishaps we faced. Knowing there were others walking the same path gave me strength. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was to focus on what I could still do, not just what I had lost. At first, I obsessed over what was slipping away. I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't read small print without help. I couldn't recognize faces from across the room. But when I shifted my focus to what I could still enjoy, things started to change. I could still enjoy the warmth of the sun on my face during a morning walk. I could still laugh with friends over coffee. I could still listen to my favorite music, cook a meal with a little extra care, and even enjoy simple hobbies like gardening by using brighter tools and better lighting. Finding joy in those moments gave me a sense of purpose again. I also learned that taking care of my emotions was just as important as caring for my eyesight. There were days when frustration crept in no matter how hard I tried to stay positive. On those days, I reminded myself that it was okay to feel upset. Grief is a natural part of losing something important, and losing part of your vision is no small thing. But instead of getting stuck in that sadness, I found that talking to someone I trusted helped me move forward. Whether it was a friend, a family member, or even a counselor, sharing those feelings lifted some of the weight off my shoulders. Staying active also played a huge role in coping with vision loss. I forced myself to keep walking, even if I needed a little guidance. Moving my body reminded me that I still had strength and control over my life. Exercise gave me energy, and that energy helped me fight off feelings of helplessness. Most importantly, I learned that gratitude has the power to change everything. It's easy to focus on what's been lost, but taking time to appreciate what I still had kept me grounded. Every morning, I reminded myself of the simple things I was grateful for: the sound of birds outside my window, the warmth of my morning coffee, or the voice of a loved one checking in on me. Gratitude helped me see that even though my vision had changed, my life was still full of moments worth cherishing. If you or someone you love is facing vision loss in their 70s, I want you to know this. It's not the end of your independence, your purpose, or your joy. It's a change, and like all changes, it takes time to adjust. But with patience, support, and a willingness to find new ways forward, you can still live a full and meaningful life. Vision loss may take away some of what you see, but it doesn't have to take away your spirit.